Good afternoon, everyone. Friday, the 16th of January. I hope everyone is well. Welcome back to a random afternoon live stream. Why aren't you naughty boys and girls at work? What are you doing skiving off on a Friday afternoon watching me? But I'm glad you're here. Welcome back, everyone. And can see everyone piling into the room early doors. Today, we are going to be talking about, in general, or at least my line of conversation is going to be about the defection of Robert Jenrick from the Tories to Reform. I'm going to talk about that today. I've got a few things that, just really dawned on me watching the press conference yesterday with Nigel Farage and Robert Jenrick. There's a few things that came to my mind whilst watching that. And I don't know if you agree or whether you disagree. Let me know in the comments. Also, look, guys, you know me. It's one of those nice, relaxed Friday afternoon shows. The weekend's upon us. Not that it makes any difference to me, to be honest with you, but the weekend's upon us. And look, you will choose the topics. I'll be keeping my eye on the chat. And I will be picking up on some of your comments as well during the show. So what did I notice, first of all, about the defection yesterday? Did it come as a surprise? Well, yes and no. I mean, I think the names Robert Jenrick and probably Suella Braverman is the other one, has been on the lips of a lot of people for a long time now as potential defectors from the Tories to Reform. But the timing was probably a bit weird, to be fair. Let's have a little look. Well, these are the things that I want to discuss today. Andy says Jenrick is a great coup for Reform, like it or not, chaps. You know what, Andy? I want to hear from Reform supporters today. Is it good news for Reform or is it not? My initial reaction, if I'm honest with everyone, and I always like to try and be honest, is that yes, it was a great coup for Farage and Reform. That was my initial thoughts, my initial instinct. And I very nearly went live on this subject when it was announced. Good afternoon, everyone. Watching you all come into the room there. Keeping my eye as best I can on the chat whilst rabbiting on. Thank you very much. I am very good this afternoon. Let's have a little look. How are the egos going to cope in Reform? Well, we'll get on to that. UK Matthew, do you think it was a defection too early? Advanced UK would have been a great party for him in time. Well, we're going to go through that, Matthew, mate. I've got a lot of things I've got a lot of things on my mind with it. Now, first of all, the first thing that struck me was the rather weird late appearance to the stage. I thought that was a bit odd. Was he on the phone? What was he doing? I don't know. And at first, I thought, oh, he's on the phone. He's finishing up a conversation. He'll be here in a second. But it was probably, I don't know, a full 2 or 3 minutes before he eventually appeared. Now, look, I may be reading something into nothing at all. Right? It might not be anything at all. It might just have been that he was on the phone or he was gone for a jimmy or whatever. I don't know. But he didn't really look very comfortable to me on that stage yesterday. For me, he didn't look like someone that actually wanted to be there. He looked like, I tell you what he looked like. Here we go with the football again, guys. Sorry. He looked like an opposition football supporter who just walked into the wrong pub. And he was trying to be nice and polite and get out without getting a good hiding. Right, that's what he reminded me of. He reminded me of a straight man who'd walked into a gay bar and thought, I shouldn't be in here. Right, that's what he reminded me of. Right, that's the first thing that struck me watching that yesterday. Now, I might be a mile off. Yes, Greg, it was all rushed. I agree, it was all rushed. But at the end of the day, it just didn't quite feel right to me. but I'm perfectly happy to say I'm reading too much into it. But there are other things that during the press conference that kind of threw me a little bit. You got to remember, this is someone that made an attempt, made a bid for the Tory party leadership, has unquestionably ambitions of being the Prime Minister. There are no questions about that. Robert Jenrick wants to be Prime Minister. Now, I don't believe Nigel Farage, quite frankly, whatever comes out of his mouth, if I'm honest. That's the way I feel about him. I may be wrong, but that's the way I feel about him, right? And when he said that he hasn't promised Robert Jenrick anything, there's not been any deals done, I'm sorry, I don't believe that. I really don't believe that. Why would Robert Jenrick leave the Tory party in a good, comfortable position and join Reform without any guarantees of anything other than paying his membership fee? And apparently his member number, whatever. Yeah, right, of course he is. I'm sure Robert Jenrick put his hand in his pocket to join Reform without being promised a position of some kind or another. I'm sorry, Nigel, I just don't believe you, mate. And I'm sorry, Robert, I just don't believe you. Look, I've got on record in the past, many moons ago, as saying that I hope Robert Jenrick did join Reform, but that was before Nigel Farage fully revealed himself for what he seems to be, and that is not always what it says on the tin. And I think the time for Robert Jenrick to join Reform was probably before the last general election, not after. Because what it's always going to appear now, it's going to appear like rats leaving a sinking ship. Now, Nigel, again, Farage yesterday, gave potential defectors a deadline, didn't he? Join us by May, otherwise you're out. So I'm just wondering who Nigel wouldn't welcome into Reform, or Recycle, as I jokingly referred to them. And I want to ask you guys today, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing that Robert Jenrick has jumped ship? Is it a good thing for Reform? What does it tell us about Reform? What does it tell us about Robert Jenrick? Does it tell us anything about Nigel Farage? Because to be fair, and I've got to say this, I have to be fair, and you know, people know my biases, right? But I have to say that the accusation that Nigel can't stand anyone in the party with a bigger profile than his own, you know, that could kind of fly in the face of that accusation, couldn't it? Because Robert Jenrick does have a very, very big profile. Is it as big as Farage's? Probably not, but he's also a very well-known and very highly respected former member of the Tory cabinet. Potentially was at one stage up for leadership of the Tory party. So he's the biggest name so far to have joined the Reform party. Is that a good thing? Is that a good thing for Reform? Because, and here's the crux of the matter. Here's the big issue that I can see down the line. And I'm going to predict this right now, right here, in front of the world, and time will tell if I'm right or wrong. I don't think this is going to last. I really don't. Not unless there has been some kind of very formal agreement in the background that we haven't been told about. And Nigel himself said that no deal had been struck. Unless that's not true, I do not see this lasting, because I think we've got a problem with egos in the party already. I think that Robert Jenrick clearly has ambitions to be Prime Minister at one stage, at one day. Where does it leave Richard Tice? Because if I was Robert Jenrick, knowing what a big move potentially it is, to leave the Tories and to go and join Reform, I would have been asking Nigel for the position of deputy leader. And I'm very surprised that he either hasn't or that has potentially already been agreed in the background, that it just hasn't been announced yet. And if that has been agreed and that Jenrick becomes deputy leader, second in command to Nigel Farage somewhere down the line, where does that leave Nigel Farage? Because, you know, we all know about the egotistical issues that are alleged to be there and I believe are there. I thought Nigel looked a little bit flustered at times yesterday. I certainly think he looked flustered when he was waiting for Robert Jenrick to appear, and he said himself he's not changed his mind, has he? You know, and for a moment, just for a split second, I thought, you know what, I'm not sure the guy's going to show up, but you know he did. It's done, and I ran a poll yesterday before the announcement. I ran a poll yesterday. I will get into your comments in a while, guys. Don't worry. It's very hard to talk, think, read, and take in the comments all at the same time. I ran a poll yesterday in the community tab, and it said, if Robert Jenrick really wants reform for the British people, which party would you advise him to join? 45% said Nigel Farage and Reform, 55% said Ben Habib and Advance. Now, would I have liked to have seen Robert Jenrick join Advance? Would I have liked that? Now, before I answer that, let me go back to what Nigel Farage himself said yesterday, that people deserve second chances, and it's quite possible that Robert Jenrick has matured and come to see the light, and I accept that. I accept Robert's argument to some degree that at times his hands would have been tied. And if that's true, if he's being sincere with us, I admire that. I think that is the honourable thing to do. However, I think if he really meant what he said, if he really had big ambitions, and if he really wanted to see genuine reform, I think a move to Ben Habib in Advance would have been an even bigger statement. But, you know, there are people out there that will disagree with me, and I'll respect that. I want to see in the chat what you think. Do you think that it's a good move for Robert Jenrick? David, I see Mike Graham had another dig at you this morning, Paul. I didn't see that, mate. I don't watch him, but please do tell me what it is. I would like to know if Mike's having a dig at me. I'll take that as a compliment. It's when they don't talk about you that you got to worry, right? But no, listen, I'd like to know what Mike Graham had to say. I don't know if he mentioned me personally or whether it was just a dig at people who, you know, could have been anyone. I don't know. But as I say, I don't watch him. He is, for me, Mike is an entertainer. I don't take him too seriously. Danny, Jenrick is more high profile than Farage. Maybe, you know, maybe. Right, not left, Reggie. How you doing, mate? I was watching your channel this morning, brother. Keep up the good work. Well done. You haven't got anywhere near enough subscribers. If you haven't already subscribed to Right, Not Left, Reggie, please do so. Show the young man your support. He's one for the future. Lizzie, Jenrick is more popular than Farage, if it matters. Yeah, do you know what, Lizzie? Amongst Tories, he could very well be. And I think part of the problem is, for us, watching this show right now, probably 90% of you will be standing with Advance UK right now. I would imagine 80-90%. And the problem for us is that we don't really look outside the box, do we? We don't really look at the core Tory voters that are clearly still out there in Middle England, in rural England, and, you know, in all sorts of places, right? The Tories have been historically the biggest political party the country has ever seen, without a question, without a doubt. So there are obviously hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of dedicated Tories out there whose votes will be needed to win the next general election. I just question the motives of Robert Jenrick, and I question the motives of reform in general, quite honestly. But I may be being harsh. I had a very good friend message me yesterday afternoon after the news. Let's have a little look at this. This might explain it. Tony says the reason he was late is because he was ushered into the building at the tradesman's entrance to hide him from the press, and the service lift was out and he had to walk about 20 odd flights of stairs. Fair enough, Tony, if that's the case. Thank you for clearing that one up for me. And I'll tell you what, if he had to climb 20 flights of stairs, he must be bloody fit, because he weren't huffing and puffing, was he? No, Tony, thank you for that, mate. Appreciate that. Good afternoon, taxi driver. George, I don't trust Farage. I think that's the way many of us feel. Terry, your thumbnail picture of the Tory ship going down, the Labour Party picture should be a submarine with the propeller and the rudder blown off. I think if it was Labour, it would be. It wouldn't be the Titanic, would it? Because they're not that big, are they? Really, they crept in on a craft. What I call a crafty majority. Val, I don't believe Nigel any longer, Paul. I mean, that is the general opinion, I would imagine, amongst the vast majority of my viewers. If Jenrick wants to lead, Farage will throw him under the bus at some point. Well, you know what, Sue? I couldn't agree more. I think you're absolutely spot on, and that is why I think it's a very interesting appointment, one that we'll follow with interest, because, two big characters. I don't know. No, I honestly don't know. I mean, for me, Jenrick does have a slight subservient look about him. I think he might be prepared to bow to Nigel, the older man, but for how long, we don't know. Spudso, Jenrick was the one getting hotels for illegals, exactly. You see, these people have shown their colours in the past, haven't they? And the way to really redeem yourself is firstly to admit what you did wrong. And I think he went some way to do that in the past, to be fair to the guy. Bearing in mind that essentially, I spoke about unity the other night quite passionately. If you haven't seen that live stream, please catch up with it. I spoke about unity in general. And these people are allegedly, supposedly, on our side. So I don't want to stick the knife in and twist it too much, because, one day we may be having to rely on these people to deliver what they say they'll deliver. Whether they will or not is another thing. Since Brexit, his plans changed drastically. Yeah, did you see the video of Farage supporting the Somalians on the Baraka show? I saw a clip of it. I didn't see all of it. Another report here that he was in the loo. To me, the lift one sounds very possible. Val, again, I'm really not sure about Jenrick. He did nothing in the 14 years as at all. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? This is the thing. The wizard's words, reform becoming the new Conservatives, will destroy their popularity, playing into the hands of Advance UK and Ben Habib. Look, this is where I'm at with the whole thing at the moment. I mean, you guys know where my loyalty lies. It lies with Ben, it lies with Advance UK, but at the same time, I'm also a realist. I can't speak about other people showing levels of realism and then not showing levels of realism myself. That will be hypocritical. I spoke yesterday about other people in the YouTube space and other smaller political parties showing levels of realism and genuine alternatives. So I can't do that on one hand and not recognise the fact that right now Reform stand the best chance of winning the next general election. If I pretended otherwise, I'd be a hypocrite. I'd be a liar, wouldn't I? So at the end of the day, that being said, the Wizard's words is quite right when I'll read it again. Reform becoming the new Conservatives will destroy their popularity. I think that has a strong possibility, a very strong possibility. Will it play into the hands of Advance and Ben? I hope it does. But for me, and look, despite the fact that I class Ben as a friend, despite the fact that I sit on the College of Advance UK, I am still free, unlike those in Reform, I am still free to speak my mind and to say it as I see it. And if I wasn't, I wouldn't be a part of Advance. That is what partially attracts me to the party, because they don't put a noose around your neck and say you can't say this and you can't say that. That to me is democracy. That's freedom. That's not what Reform are offering us. But my advice to Nigel Farage today would still be the same as it was a year, 18 months ago. He had the chance to unite everyone. Instead of that, he kicked Rupert Lowe out of the party. He made it completely intolerable for Ben Habib. He's made it intolerable, and they've kicked out numerous grassroots members up and down the country, good, solid, patriotic people that have worked their balls off to get Reform into the position where they are today. Why did they do that? That's my question. I mean, look, you've all watched Ben on TV. Howard Cox is another great man who was pushed aside by Reform. And I often go back to Howard and use Howard as one of my finest examples. Who on earth would not want to see a man like Howard Cox in the big house? I mean, it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you come from. Howard is just such a likeable, sensible, sound individual that it's almost impossible to dislike. Who wouldn't want Howard on board in your political party? A man of experience, a man of maturity. The guy really has everything. But he wasn't good enough for Reform. And that's a major problem. It's a major, major issue. Glenn, Paul, do you agree with all these MPs jumping ship? It says to me they're not really bothered with any party. Yeah, I mean, Glenn, absolutely, I agree entirely, my friend. Look, at the end of the day, I admire, I don't admire them, but I suppose there's more room for admiring those that stick to their guns, even those, even the MPs that we dislike. I'll give you an example. You won't see Jeremy Corbyn joining Reform because he can win a seat or sit on a Reform cabinet. That's not what he do, because despite the fact I don't like his politics, Jeremy Corbyn at least stands and sticks by what he believes in, the same as someone like George Galloway. Not a man whose politics I can go along with, but he is a man that I enjoy listening to, and he sticks to his guns. His position today is probably no different to his position 20 years ago. So I think we will see an exodus from the Conservative Party. I think we'll see a very small exodus from the Labour Party, a very small exodus from the Lib Dems, one or two Green councillors here and there. God forbid, God knows what they're doing coming over. Career politicians who don't need a crystal ball to know where their bread is buttered in the future. So the question then is, how will Farage and Tice and Zia Youssef, how will they keep that together in the future? Scottish lad Boyd, I don't care much for labels. I say if you can be proper and genuine, then we welcome you. Thank you for that. Stop animal cruelty, thank you. Advance need an MP to get a foot in the door. Yeah, I agree with that. All good things comes to those that wait. Reform will be the new Conservative Party if they get in. That is the general opinion, isn't it? John, I think Jenrick is ambitious and Nigel and him will cross swords along the line. I mean, I think that goes without saying. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's going to be very difficult for Nigel Farage to get on with anyone who won't be 100% prepared to bend the knee to Lord Nigel. Maybe I'm wrong about the man. Look, I've never met him. Never sat in a room with him. I used to be a fan, a supporter of Nigel, but I can't respect someone that stabs their friends and their allies in the back. It's very difficult for me to do that. Forget the politics. Forget all that. Forget the politics. It's about when someone shows you who they are, you tend to believe them if you've got any sense. And for me, just as an ordinary working lad, right, an ordinary fella, nobody special, nothing special. I don't come from any special backgrounds. I'm just a regular person like every single other working class bod out there. We see what we see with our eyes. We hear what we hear with our ears, and we come to a conclusion, right? And my conclusion is that Nigel isn't trustworthy, and that's a problem. But I may be wrong. I may have the guy completely wrong. I don't know. But from all that I see and from all that I hear, that is my conclusion. And I'm entitled to come to that conclusion, just the same as the Reform voters out there are entitled to come to their own. I think the big thing with Reform right now is not the fact that people love them so much. It's not the fact that people support Nigel so much. Colin says, please increase the channel audio output. I think I should be loud enough, guys. Yeah, I should be loud enough. I think it's not so much that people love Nigel and Reform and respect him and like him and everything else that goes with it. I think the sad truth of the matter is the vast majority of people feel that he's still the best of a fairly bad bunch, right? And that's, an understatement, isn't it? It's like, do you want to be hung with Labour? Do you want to be shot with the Tories? Or do you want to live on a desert island all by yourself for the rest of your life under Nigel Farage? Well, you know which one you're going to take, right? At least you stay alive. And that's kind of the option that the British public feel that they're left with, when in truth there are other options, as we well know. Jenrick has a 60% approval rating. Yeah, I've no doubt that he does. KMR, agree, Paul. I can't see it lasting. Politics is a very tough, strange game, and there was some reality and some honesty when I watched Nigel and Robert Jenrick yesterday. You know, some of the journalists were bringing up some of the quite nasty things that they'd said about each other in the past. But they were willing to put that to one side. Nigel Farage said, oh, look, this is politics. It's a dirty game. And he's right. He's right. To be fair, he's not lying. He's right. It is a very dirty game. And the real men, the people that really care, should be able to put minor differences, even some fairly major differences and some big personalities, some personality clashes to one side for the good and the great of the country. Which leaves me wondering what Nigel Farage's problem is with great men like Ben Habib, like Rupert Lowe, and indeed with Tommy's movement. I'm not going to say Tommy himself. If Nigel doesn't want to associate himself with Tommy for whatever reason, I get it. It's fine. It's not a problem. And I don't think it's a problem for Tommy. I don't think it'd be a problem for his supporters. But when we're all labelled as that lot and we're all described as, you know, working class thugs, etc., and looked down upon, that's a problem, isn't it? That's a major problem. And Reform have done nothing, absolutely nothing to heal that wound. Nothing to heal those wounds. They kicked out, they've obviously removed any association with Ant Middleton as well, choosing Layla Cullingham over Ant, potentially as their next mayoral candidate for London, after basically offering Howard Cox no support apart from Rupert. Let's have a little look. Flexi official. I don't think you quite get it, Paul. What truly happens with Labour, Cons and Reform? They are not in true control of policies. Robert is just securing a job in the next government. Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. The bit about them not being in control of true policies, I get that as well. Look, this is the thing. This is why we need a true party of genuine change. I'm not going to keep using the word reform. A true party of genuine change with people inside it big enough, brave enough and honest enough to get stuck in to the civil service, to the people that do make policies, to the people that are putting on pressure, get stuck into the judiciary, get stuck into police services up and down the country and root out all the genuine wrongs and replace them with people that genuinely care. And it's not about left or right wing politics. It's about right and wrong. It's quite simple, isn't it? I mean, look, if you see a kid drowning in the sea, you don't worry about the kid's politics. You just rush out and you save them, right? You don't go, oh, is that kid black or white or brown or whatever? You just rush out and you save that kid because you know it's the right thing to do. It's not about left or right in this instance. We've gone past that, I think, in our country, way past it. Robert Jenrick's involvement in the Conservative Party is a major concern for a lot of people. And of the week's defections, look, he's the best one, isn't he? I mean, we got Zahawi is the other one. And my God, what was Nigel Farage thinking bringing someone like that into Reform? Again, playing devil's advocate. What he does need to form a government is experience. You need experience to form a government. I get that. And you do need experience to form a government. But he's got another 3 years, possibly, ish, there or thereabouts, right? I don't know exactly what the dates are. But you've got to be desperate to be bringing in someone like, what's his name, Nadeem Zahawi, in my opinion. That is desperation. Maybe Nigel Farage is viewing him as a potential leader after he leaves or dies. That's a possibility. I don't think Nigel Farage is someone that strikes me as considers his own demise. I don't think Farage's demise is something on his mind personally. We'll see. Like I said, I want to hear from some Reform supporters this afternoon and tell me why I'm wrong. Well, that's the other question, isn't it? The tea lady. Great question. Should it trigger a by-election? I mean, look, the only thing I will say is that in Jenrick's case, I think he's a shoo-in to win anyway. It's a very safe seat, I believe. But it's a point, you know, should switching parties automatically mean a by-election? I mean, if you think about that, right, if you think about the alternative and we put it on a really grand, ridiculous scale, you could vote in a Conservative government. They could all jump ship and within a week you could have a Labour government. Well, you didn't vote for a Labour government, you voted for a Conservative government. So, you know, I think really and truly the right thing to do is if you if you jump ship from one party to another, you really should go back to the public and ask for their support. You know, is this move okay with you? If it is okay with you, then you will re-elect me. If it's not okay with you, then you'll elect someone else. Personally, I do think that if you jump ship, it should trigger a by-election. That is my own belief. Without thinking it out, you know, too much. That's my initial reaction to that. I may be wrong. Rosemary says they all lie. Ray again says, Rosemary said they all lie, and Ray says once the Tories take over Reform, they will destroy it from within and go back over to the Conservatives. I think what's more likely, Raymond, is that Reform will just become the Tories, and the Conservative Party will probably never die out. It's too much of an institution, but it will become a party reminiscent to, you know, the Lib Dems or, you know, a relatively meaningless party that holds no real power, that never really gets anywhere and is full of stuffy old people who just, you know, will do the same thing until they die and they're never prepared to look at anything else. Good question there. Terry, would anyone in the chat vote Conservative? If not, why would you vote Reform? Good question. Very good question, Terry. I like that. So who of you guys now watching would vote Tory? And if the answer is that you wouldn't, why would you vote for Reform? Now, let's play devil's advocate. Let's turn that excellent question around, Terry. My guess is that their answer would be that under Nigel, things would be different. We heard that before, didn't we? We heard that with Boris Johnson, who stitched us up just as much, if not more, than Tony Blair. I voted for Boris Johnson. I voted Tory at one stage. I voted Tory most of my life. Not because I particularly liked them, but they were the best for the job, right? For me personally, in my personal position as a businessman, as a family man, as a homeowner, as someone with conservative values and morals, and you know, I believe that, you know, you work hard, you reap the rewards. But that loon stitched us up just as much, if not more, than Blair, didn't he? The Boris wave. The Boris wave was the final nail in the coffin, wasn't it, really? But very interesting to see Jenrick joining Reform yesterday. I don't think it's going to end well, personally. Michael says, Farage is a snake. Nothing surprises me. He's a prolific liar. Or is he just being a politician? Lebalula, I think there will be a load of last-minute voting decisions if we are even allowed to have a general election. Well, there's another, that's a debate and a topic for another day. But you're right to fear about the status of future elections. Jack says, welcome, Jack. Reform UK are going to be fighting amongst each other with Farage, Tyson, Jenrick fighting against each other. I think that is a very, there's a very high level of truth in that, a distinct possibility. Unless, of course, Jack, unless Nigel was being economic with the truth yesterday when he said that no pre-arrangement had been made. Look, if they've been talking since September, let's look at this realistically, right? Let's forget their politicians for a moment. Let's just look at it on an everyday basis. If you've been talking to someone since September last year, where are we? September, October, November, December, January, 5 months, let's say 4 months. If you've been talking to someone for 4 months, what have you been talking about? The weather, football? You've been talking about EastEnders? Come on. Give us a bit of credit. Of course, there's some kind of deal in the background. Robert Jenrick knows exactly where he's going and what his position is going to be within reform. Really? Do you really want us to believe that he's just literally jumped ship and he's just going to be an ordinary bod sitting at the top table with Zia Youssef and Richard Tice? I don't think so. I mean, look, Richard Tice is a human being. I don't think he's a bad man. He's just not in touch. He's just an out of touch Tory toff. Right? He's like, he's just not on the same level, is he, as your average everyday working class man, woman. I don't think he's a bad person. He's just a bit thick, if that's the right expression. He's not thick, but you know what I mean. He's out of touch, right? He's out of touch and he's out of place. And that is why he said, when he spoke about that lot, and to a degree, he was being honest with us and with himself. That's how he sees us. He sees us as that lot, with his nose in the air. And I don't see how he's going to get on with Robert Jenrick. But the bigger mystery to me is if they're prepared to bring people like Nadim Zahawi, Robert Jenrick into the party, what was the problem with Ben Habib, Howard Cox and Rupert Lowe? 3 men that we all know are top draw. Top draw. All people that you would give your right arm to have in the trenches with you, by your side. All 3 people that you would be proud to have your back and to hopefully one day get them on your cabinet. All gone. And there are lots of other people that are very close to being just as good as the names I've mentioned that have also been ousted from reform. And you can't blame me, even for people out there that say, come on, Paul, reform offers us our best chance. Wake up, mate. You can't blame me. You can't blame me. After they've done what they've done, you can't blame me or anyone else for having those doubts about the sincerity of those in charge of reform. Bearing in mind that this is a party that cannot get rid of its leader. You can't get rid of Nigel Farage. He owns the party. It is Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage is reform. Reform is Nigel Farage. You can't get rid of him. If the guy woke up tomorrow and had gone stark raving mental, he's still leader of reform. Right. In stark contrast, Advance UK have a system, a mechanism in place that can remove its leader if the party doesn't think he's doing a good enough job. Which one sounds right to you? I'll leave you to make your own decision on that one. It's amazing how I can waffle on for 45 minutes and hopefully still have your guys' attention. 1,136 people currently watching. Let's go through some of the chat. Suella Braverman next. Look, I've got to be honest with everyone. There are going to be people watching right now that won't agree with me, right? And that's fine. But I've got to tell you, I really like Suella Braverman. And I'll tell you why I really like her. She's a human being. She's a good human. I tell you now, I think Suella Braverman is a good human being. And I think she's only got good in her heart. I genuinely mean that. She may not have got everything right. She definitely had issues when she held her positions in the cabinet with the Tory government. There's no question about that. She was being politically strangled by her peers and her seniors in the party. But I really like Suella Braverman. I hope that she doesn't join Reform. I would really love to see Suella join us over Advance. Whether that will happen or not, I don't know. Suella may be one of those people that I spoke about earlier on that, despite knowing that things aren't right, she's not a career politician, and she's not just going to jump ship because it will suit her from a career viewpoint. If Suella believes that she is a Tory and that is it, then to some degrees you've got to admire her honesty, because she is without a shadow of a doubt going to suffer politically in the future for staying with the Tory party. So, it's a bit, the devil you do, the devil you don't, right? It's a bit of a catch-22 situation. If she was to jump ship over to Reform, people could say, well, she's done the right thing. She's gone over to the party that's going to make a difference. You could say that, or you could say, oh, she's only jumping ship because she wants to keep her place and she's a career politician. I think with Suella, I really do trust her decision. I like her. If you disagree with me, that's fine. But I think she's a good-hearted, honest individual. That's my belief. I would add to that, on a negative side, I'm not sure she's as strong as she needs to be. But as an individual, I like her. So I thought if you change parties, there will be a by-election. Know that you can jump ship without a by-election. Soon start seeing them all moving to Advance UK. Well, you see, that would be the really, really brave move, wouldn't it? Because that would, right now, if people moved, real bravery, right? So I'll show you again. I'm going to talk about the man again. I'm sorry. But Howard Cox, he had a very safe position within Reform, very safe. But he put his principles, his morals, his beliefs, all before his political future. He put all of his morals in one basket and said, nope, I'm going with Ben. Now that's a move from the heart. A Robert Jenrick move from the Tories to Reform, is that a move from the heart? Well, you'd have to make your own minds up, wouldn't you? Is that a move from the heart or a move from the career? Andrew, I've always voted Reform since his UKIP days, but since he became an MP, he has been very disappointing and weak. He did nothing for the political prisoners or grooming gangs. Thank you, Andrew. A Newcastle fan by the looks of that. Pick a mix. No party can do this without having experience. I agree with that. if there is an early election that he needs boots on the ground, you give the correct job to the correct person. Farage won't be around forever. Pick a mix. Look, it's a good point. I think you're right. No one's saying this is easy, by the way, guys, right? If anyone's sitting out there, especially Nigel fans or anyone that is a Reform member or a Reform voter thinking, listen to this prick, he's got all the answers. No, I haven't. I fully appreciate that, the job is dirty, the job is difficult, and sometimes you have to kiss a lot of frogs before you meet your prince, right? I get all that. Val says, I'm convinced Zia runs the show. I think a lot of people feel that way, but I think that might be financially. The tea lady, Rupert Lowe, is the way to go. I would say, the tea lady, I would say to that, we are the way to go for Rupert, not the other way round. Unfortunately, Rupert hasn't really got a lot for us to follow right now, is he? Yes, you can join Restore if you so wish, and I wouldn't put anyone off of doing that. And then what? Then what? So, really it's Rupert should be coming on board with us rather than us going on board with Rupert. And as I said in my impassioned video the other night, I am a little bit confused where Rupert is concerned, not least a little bit disappointed, but I may be wrong. I'm just a bod sitting in front of a mic, thinking out loud, not saying I've got the answers. I'm not saying that I'm right about everything. I give you my opinion. You can give me yours, and time will tell. Time will tell. You also have to consider with Nigel that 1 minute we can't do mass deportations, and the next minute we can. Now let's get this. This is the one thing that we have to all agree on. That we have to agree on, unfortunately. Otherwise, our country is lost forever. Unfortunately, whether we like it or not, and I will say that the implementation of mass deportations is extremely problematic. It's extremely expensive. It's extremely unpleasant. It's extremely unfortunate for many people, and it will be extremely a difficult time. Let's just put it that way. It'll be very, very difficult. Unfortunately, due to people like Tony Blair and Boris Johnson and everyone else in between, let's be honest, that has now become a necessity in anyone's manifesto. I think for anyone to comfortably win the next general election, they have to commit to mass deportations. And it's a horrible word. It's a horrible subject in many respects because it is going to cause major upheaval. And whether, look, I agree with that policy. Let me be clear. I absolutely agree with that policy. But having said that, it ain't going to be pleasant to watch. I mean, it will be pleasant to watch, to see it happening, but you know what I mean. It won't be a pleasant experience. That's what I'm saying. It won't be a pleasant experience for the country. It won't be a pleasant experience for those having to implement it, and it won't be a pleasant experience for those that are being forcibly deported. But unfortunately, we now are at that stage where we haven't really got any choice. For the good of everyone that lives here legally and peacefully, it doesn't matter what colour you are, it doesn't matter what religion you are. There's too many people in the United Kingdom, far too many. There's not enough housing, there's not enough infrastructure, there's not enough healthcare. We're overrun as a nation in general. There's too many cars and not enough spaces, right? That's the bottom line. So mass deportations are not only required now, they're a necessity. And I'm not sure that I believe Farage has the will and the belief in his heart to do that. Where do you start? Well, you start with the illegals and the foreign-born criminals. Let's not even worry about where you go from there. Let's not even give that any consideration. There doesn't really have to be any consideration, does it? And that is looking at the 5th round of the FA Cup when you haven't even been drawn in the 3rd round tie, right? You know, there's no point. You got to start where you need to start. You need to start by emptying our jails of all the foreign-born criminals and scumbags that have committed heinous crimes. Get rid of them. Get shot. Start with the sex offenders. Start with the murderers and the rapists and all the rest of them that have committed physical crimes against innocent people. They're the most important ones. Get them out. Get shot. Get rid. All of the illegals who have broken into our country, who have broken the law to come into our country, get rid, get shot, and never mind all the lefties whinging and whining and crying. They won't cry so much when their mum goes into hospital and suddenly finds that she's only got to wait an hour instead of 18 hours in the corridor. They won't be whining so much then when their younger sister or younger brother or, God forbid, one of their kids can suddenly get a doctor's appointment when before they couldn't. Slowly but surely they'll wake up. Nigel loves the cameras. When they are gone, he's a different person. Zia will be worried. I think Richard Tice is more the man to be worried, personally. Ben Habib will have to get some experience in too if he gets the same position one day. Yeah, I mean, look, yes, definitely. Of course, experience is required. But what's also required is good people with good brains, good business acumen, people that have succeeded in life, that have achieved major goals. You don't have to be a politician as such to be a good politician. In fact, I believe best people to become politicians probably would never want to be a politician, quite honestly. Successful businessmen, people that know about economics, that understand crypto and the future of crypto and what it's going to mean, people that truly understand AI and how to use it to our advantage rather than for it to be used to our disadvantage. People with good international skills, international relations, all of those things. You don't have to be a politician. But you are right. Of course, experience is always needed. Mel says too many egos, yeah. Sarah Bird, I have not forgive Reform for what they did to Rupert and Ben. Minky Len, like a lot of other people, Paul, I'm sick to death of the lies and deceit. Politicians should be made accountable for their actions with criminal prosecutions, in my opinion. Look, you know what? In some instances, I agree, particularly when it comes to the grooming gangs. I was watching some Labour MP on GB News yesterday, preaching and talking and waffling and speaking out, talking about Robert Jenrick and Reform and this and that. And I thought, you know what, this guy, you know, I don't agree with what he's saying, but he's kind of making some sense. Let me just look something up. And guess what? The bugger voted against the grooming gang inquiry. Credibility gone. Sorry, credibility out of the window. Anyone that voted against that child grooming gang inquiry has no place in the Houses of Parliament, none whatsoever. And I've said it before and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, and when the time comes, I'll be even more vocal about it. When the time comes round to voting, never, ever, 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 ever vote for a person, an adult, that voted against the child grooming gang inquiry. Why would anyone do that? That says it all, and they will have to live with that for the rest of their lives. And when their political careers are over, I hope that whatever they do in their lives, there will always be someone there to remind them what they did. Gary says, we are being played again. These people lie. Rupert Lowe must unite with Ben Habib. I agree. Or we are done. Benidorm better get building because there will be a lot of demand for housing. Reform is becoming a Muslim party. I think, look, what Farage is doing here, quite obviously, he's trying to prove that reform can be a party for everyone. I guess that's what they're trying to prove. Jackie, everyone's arguing Danny and Ryan have fallen out. Absolute nightmare. Jackie, thank you for that. It is an absolute nightmare. I'm not personally going to get involved in it. It's nothing to do with me. I've never met Ryan. I've met Danny, of course. Danny's always seemed a solid enough lad to me, but it's not one that I'm prepared to comment on too much or get involved in, simply because I don't know a great deal about it. I certainly don't know why they've fallen out, or I've got a rough idea. I mean, I watched Danny's video the other night. What I do know is that you've got two patriotic lads there with the best intentions, I think, of everyone at heart, of their kids, the futures. Come on, guys, don't wash your dirty linen in public. Shake hands and part company. Hopefully they can do that. Bev Johnson, sorry off topic, but great result for the Darlington nurses. I haven't seen that, Bev. My apologies. Val, time will tell. If Jenrick's genuine, he may jump ship to advance, but do we want him? I mean, you know what, Val? Right now, at this particular moment, I'd welcome anyone, pretty much. I don't mean anyone, but I'd welcome almost anyone into advance because they would be making the move for the right reasons. It's a bit, let me give you a silly example, right? Reform is the rich man with a yacht and a Ferrari, right? And you say to the young lady, what first attracted you to the party with the Ferrari and the big yacht and the millions of pounds and the great chance of giving you a great future, right? Advance is the ordinary guy walking down the street, nothing standing out particularly about them. They've not got, this massive party behind them, etc. If that's the right expression. Sorry, that's not the best example, but you know what I mean? It's like you don't know. People that are attracted to that person for the right reasons, the right personalities, the right morals, etc., etc. So I look at Robert Jenrick jumping ship to Reform as that, young lady seeing an older guy with loads of money and a nice car and a big yacht. Well, she knows what she's getting into, right? But is she getting into it for the right reasons? I don't know if it's a good analogy or not, but you get my point, right? So I'd welcome pretty much anyone that joined Advance right now, because they'd be showing a level of bravery and understanding. The easiest thing, I could be an example myself, myself, Richard, anyone out there right now, and this is what I was talking about the other night, having a moan, if you like, a whine about a few people. It will be better for my potential career to have stuck with Reform, go with the party line, sing the praises of Nigel Farage every day. No doubt somewhere down the line our paths would have crossed and Nigel would have thanked me for my support over the years of singing Reform's praises. That would be the best career move for me, without a question of a doubt. But I choose not to do that because it's not about what's in it for any individual. It's about what's best for the country. Let me just read this one out. Cara, Ben Habibi's British, born overseas, specifically Pakistan. Not quite sure what you mean there, Cara. Maybe you might want to let me know. I don't care if Ben was born on the moon, quite frankly. Matt Palmer. Hello, Grandad. Jenrick is a plum. Steady, Matt. Steady. Yeah. Pretty Patel. Yeah. Bit of a letdown. Come on. The party should not be about the individuals. Shall I give him the time of day? Yeah, why not? David, talking about patriots living in Spain. Yeah, right, okay, David. Ben Habib, David, if you're having a dig at me there, mate, then I don't know if you are or if I'm reading that wrong, but if you are, don't watch. Reform will implode. All Farage wants is to put a Muslim into number 10 as Prime Minister, a Muslim with a finger on a nuclear button. Farage will disappear as usual after the Muslim is in power. Might be a bit harsh, but could also have an element of truth. You guys will decide. What's this one? It doesn't matter who gets in power, the country's financial state is so far gone due to greed. Look at the financial state and people will see why all the chaos is happening. Very good point. Very good point. There you go, Val. You're absolutely right. I wish Ben would get, sorry, Ben, I wish Rupert would get the memo. I really do. Pick a mix. I thought you didn't want recycled Conservative or Labour MPs, just the working class. No, I think anyone who is brave enough and is honest enough to make the decision at the right time would be welcome. You have to forgive people, and you have to allow people to mature and to understand the error of their ways. And you judge people by their actions, don't you? People have got things wrong in the past. One analogy Nigel Farage made yesterday that I do agree with when he said that, look, to be a successful businessman, you've probably been a failed businessman in the past, and that is true. The most successful businessmen in the world didn't start off necessarily succeeding. They may have failed 1, 2, 3, 4 or more occasions before they eventually succeeded. The secret of that success was to learn by your mistakes, understand them, address those mistakes, and put them right. And if people out there, from a political viewpoint, are big enough, grown up enough, and sensible enough to realise that they had it wrong in the past, I don't see anything wrong with that, personally. But there are limits. There are limits, of course. If Zara Sultana suddenly said that she wanted to join Advance UK, I would be extremely suspicious, right? But to be fair, she wouldn't do that because she's fully committed to her cause. Like it or not, like her or not, that is an admirable trait. The fact that she is loyal to her cause. She ain't jumping ship or changing for anyone. She believes in what she believes in. I know she's gone from Labour, or she was kicked out of Labour and she's now with some other bunch of rank nutcases, but you get what I mean. She has her beliefs and she ain't changing them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Anyone that is living abroad, make sure that your postal vote is up to date. It's an interesting one. Edward, thank you, Edward. I'm a member of Advance, but I don't see them as a legitimate alternative to reform at present and not before the next general election. They are a great pressure lobby, though. I'm sure Farage is watching. Fair point, Edward. Fair point. A very fair point. But we will continue to work hard and we will do our best. Flexi says Advance is not going to achieve anything without Rupert. It's a fact. We shall see. Let's have a look. Selwyn Pritchard. Good afternoon, Paul. I am afraid it's Ben Habib and Advance UK and the pledge all the way. It will never be reformed. I just don't trust Farage. It looks like a Tory government in disguise. Well, it is kind of looking that way, isn't it, Selwyn? I mean, it is kind of looking that way. Jenrick has lost loads of weight. Yeah, I think he's been out doing the old training, hasn't he? He's been out on his toes, keeping fit. Good idea. A good idea. Debbie, thank you. Hi, Paul. Great to catch you on the live. Thank you very much, Debbie, and I really appreciate that. Farage has committed sabotage on reform just the same as UKIP. I think he's being a bit more long-winded about this one. I think he's being a bit more clever. And Jenrick was a Remainer, exactly. Mr. Lad, 55. Farage now needs to make it count this year. Last chance this, hopefully, the local elections, if they go ahead, is the telling time now. I think that is when Starmer will go. He will have to be dragged kicking and screaming from number 10, won't he? By his own people. They'll probably have to, lash him up and carry him out the door because he ain't going nowhere unless he's forced out. But I think the May local elections will be the time when the party just turns on him. The big worry then is who do they replace him with? But that is another story for another time. Taxi driver, maybe in some way reform could benefit from the experience of others coming into the party. Every political party, of course, I said this earlier on, it needs experience, doesn't it? Of course it needs experience. But it depends on what type of experience. You don't want negative experience in your party. You want positive experience. People that have genuinely learned from their mistakes and have managed to put them right. Look, to be fair, Robert Jenrick may be one of those people. Only time will tell. Fair point. Look, KM says, give reform a chance. FFS, they're not even in government. Many are writing them off already. It's them or communism. Look, I totally accept that statement. And I have some sympathy with it. The problem is that we are all very, so he's a reform supporter. Respect to them. Thank you for watching and putting your comment in. I appreciate that, mate. I say, mate, you might be a lady. And I get that. I get what you're saying. And to a degree, you're right. They're not even in government, and everyone deserves a chance. The trouble is, my friend, this is the problem, is that Nigel's had his chance. He had it with UKIP, and he blew it. He had it with the United Kingdom movement, and he blew it. He had it with Ben Habib, and he blew it. He had it with Rupert Lowe, and he blew it. He had it with Howard Cox, and he blew that. And he's had it with a lot of other different bits and pieces in his political career, and he's also blown and walked away from most of that. So my answer to UKM 4089 is this, is that whilst I sympathise with your message, when someone shows you who they are, it's usually best to believe them. And I don't believe that Nigel Farage has the will, has the balls, or has the intention of fulfilling the promises that we need to see, that we need to hear. We need to see a manifesto that absolutely includes the mass deportations of foreign-born criminals and illegals. And if we don't see that, and if it is not implemented, then I'm afraid he is not the Messiah that people think he is. I have my sincere doubts. Carl, after reading Restore's email yesterday evening from Rupert Lowe, it seems clear he believes party politics is dead, as stated, and I think him joining Advance UK now is very, very slim, sadly. Like I said, Carl, I've said it before, I'll say it again, and I'll keep saying it about Rupert. I like him, I admire him, I think he's a good man, I support him. I'm just not sure what he's up to, in all honesty. Yeah, I'm just not sure what he's doing. Yeah, here's one. Look, Patriot Dan at hospital this morning, put on a 2-year waiting list for an operation. If I just came off a boat, would be done next week. Might even be done earlier than that, mate. Lowe has said he's thinking over the weekend, hope it's to join Advance, then the fun can start. Wouldn't it just? I tell you what we're going to do today, right? We're going to kind of finish up with this. Ben has given up pretty much everything for the better cause and for the sake of what he believes to be the right thing to be doing. He's doing all this not for his pocket, not for his status or his profile. He's doing it for the love of his country, and the bravery is immense. He's gone out on the limb. He supported the United Kingdom movement. He supported us lot, and at the end of the day, the man deserves everyone's support, and he certainly deserves the support of Rupert. And that is where I hope that will, that's where it will lead. Linda, I think Mike Graham was having a skit about you this morning, Paul. If you get an opportunity, have a watch, see if you can pick it up. He didn't name you directly. Thanks, Linda. I'll maybe have a look later on. But as I said, look, listen, I'll say it, for the 10th time. I, as an entertainer, as a presenter, I think Mike Graham's good at what he does. I used to enjoy watching him. He's one of those presenters that when he's on, you think, I'll watch him. He's good value, this fella. I think as a man, I think he's playing a game. I think it's all a facade. It's just, he talked about, that's people's role. That's their, what was the word he used? I can't remember the word he used now. That's the role that he plays. Mike Graham plays a role. He plays it very well. Does he mean what he says? I don't know. I'm not even so sure. Look, Mike has earned a lot of money in the past doing what he does, and he's very good at it. And he will continue to earn a lot of money as an independent journalist, probably more money than he earned before, to be fair. Can't be sure about that, but he'll probably earn more money now than he did before. And good luck to him. But it's a pinch of salt. He's a pinch of salt person for me. You take what he says with a pinch of salt because he's entertaining. He's bringing you the news. He's entertaining. He's giving you an opinion. But the problem is that when you want the big figures, I've got just over 1,000 people watching right now. I know exactly how to turn that into 10,000 people viewing. It's easy. It's as easy as picking up that can of Coke and taking a swig out of it. I can do a live stream this evening, and I guarantee I'll have 10,000 people watching it. And I won't tell you exactly how I would do it, but it's all about controversy. It's all about good cop, bad cop. It's all about creating a bit of drama, and that's where it is. Is that a genuine, honest, truthful conversation between people that can trust each other? I don't think it is it really? If I'm sitting here causing drama, telling you I agree with one thing and then deliberately disagreeing about something else, I know will wind you up and get the comments going, and it will encourage people to come back next time because that bastard didn't agree with me on this or he said that. It's a game. It's a game that the media play very well. It's not for me. It's not my bag personally. I'd rather just sit and be, an ordinary person telling you I don't want to have to think about what I'm saying too much. I'd let my heart do the talking. If I get it wrong, I get it wrong. Mike, for me, is an entertainer. That's it. So I don't really give a shit what he says, quite frankly. What he said about Tommy, don't even know if he means it. He will say whatever brings in the views. What brings in the views, what brings in the money, that's the road he'll go down. If he agrees with it in his heart, all the better, because it makes it easier to say. But if you want to go where the dough is, then you start to wind people up, and you go against narratives, and that's when you get the views. That's how I do it. Good luck to him. But whatever he says is meaningless to me, to be honest. Until a man can apologise and act like a man, then they're irrelevant to me. Right, guys, that is it. I think we'll give it a break there. Let me just see. I think there's one last super in the room. Let me get that. Paul, get Danny's milk. Listen, mate, he get his own bloody milk. Don't worry about that. Thank you, Belinda. Really appreciate that. Thanks for watching, everyone, this afternoon. Really enjoyed it, as always. I like it when it's just us. Always good to have... I'm going to say one thing before I go tonight. This afternoon. One thing before I go. Two things, actually. First of all, please give me an upvote. If you haven't already given the show an upvote, the usual thing. You see that little red thing up in the corner there? It's called a thumbs up. Give the video a thumbs up if you don't mind. The other thing I want to talk about is my friend Richard Inman. Please make sure you go over and subscribe to Richard's channels as well. Richard is a man that really, really puts his heart and soul into everything that we believe in, and he deserves everyone's support. So please go over to Richard's channel and subscribe over there as well. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's been great fun. Loads and loads of comments. I am way, way, way behind in the comments today here. Thank you very much, Val. I will look through all the comments afterwards. Yeah, it's over at Counter Media, Sheila. Thank you for that. Scotty, thank you, Scotty. Totally agree, Paul. Our community is fantastic, and even when we all have different opinions, we agree on what's important. Love to you all, and to you, Paul. Thank you very much, John. Really, really appreciate that. Sums it up perfectly. Subscribe to Danny as well. Yeah, we won't forget Danny, Angelina. We won't forget Danny. Right, guys, have a great weekend. Stay well, stay safe wherever you are. And as always, of course, make sure those beautiful children have a lovely, safe weekend. We'll see you soon, everyone.